It shows you doing right. There you go. Oh my God.
Hello.
Cool.
So
Excited, I think.
welcome to the quarterfinals of BAC Pre-Australs, a portion of Feminism Central. I'd like to invite the first athlete here. What do you?
Prime Minister, sit up.
Yeah, balance.
Man, why are you in? I thought he came for short. Okay. Whilst not obviously sexist, according to Sherman, the state of affairs in Singapore is quite bad. So I'm going to do a couple of things in my PS speech. The first is I'm going to suggest that as a feminist movement in Singapore, we ought to agitate for full conscription because we think it restructures both A, with the way the military works, but B, the way society engages with this. And we think it's preferable for women in Singapore. What's our model? We say as a feminist movement, we'll do everything in our capacity to get change. According to Sherman, there are ad campaigns and fundings that have historically worked. So there's a group called Aware that apparently legislated a couple of things like the Women's Charter, and they got the Purple Light Saga in 2 days. So I would suggest these things are good and we'll do similar things to achieve this. We're more than happy to incorporate campaigning, marches, what have you. What am I going to prove in my speech? 2 things. First, the feminist movement has a principal obligation to make this, to agitate for this change. Second, we'll prove that there are positive changes in the community as a result of this. Think first, the feminist movement has an obligation to do this. The framework of this argumentation relies on 2 things. First is the suggestion that whilst feminists care for equality, they care about maximizing the utility women have in regards to their own lives. So the way in which men have opportunities to live the experiences that they have been given historically, we think women ought to have the same lived experiences in order to achieve equal standing within society. Therefore, as a result of this, we say status quo massively privileges the men. Like, according to Singaporeans, apparently this obligation to your nation is very important. As a result of this, conscription is a pivotal part of the construction of a national identity, but B, the way in which society values a person. Therefore, as a result of this, women have been systematically locked out of being either A, being seen as equal, but second, being seen as part of a community that's functional, considering Singapore thinks Malaysia is constantly going to attack them. The second thing we would suggest that as a result of this, the feminist community within Singapore is handicapped in their capacity to forward equality because it privileges women in that women can have access to equal jobs, equal opportunities, but when it comes to an obligation that men also incur, women don't incur the same cost. Therefore, the second part of this is why feminists ought to fight for this. Like, I'm going to suggest that we are fighting for something being coercive, but I want to explain why this is preferable in 2 ways. First, I would like to suggest that there's a whole bunch of women in the status quo who would like to be conscripted. Either A, because they have huge benefits after 2 years because you start off with a higher salary, or second, because the conscription leads to you having more and more skills that are valued by employers. I'll explain this later. These women in the status quo, if they want to opt into the military, have to do a couple of things. First, they have to agree to a 10-year contract in the military, which is huge amounts of time that women don't have the capacity to give up with regards to their life. Second, the communities right now with regards to the military are extremely hostile. Facilities are apparently quite shit for women as a result of the hyper-masculinity because it's just low numbers. Women interact with men in ways they have very little control over. In fact, they're relegated to quite sexist positions, like being a cook or being subservient to men. This thing means in the status quo, where there is no choice, women who want to opt into some coercive, we think we liberate them. What about the second group of women? The women who don't want to enter conscription, probably quite happy right now. What about the coercion there? So we're going to do 2 things. First, we will suggest that choice is a means to accessing equality. So the point at which choice doesn't access equality, we say choice ought to be deprioritized and we are okay with coercing them. 2 ways in which we think we are more likely to achieve equality. Once it's true this act coerces women into a particular position, we think being in this position enables them to access many other versions of equality they would not have had otherwise. Look for it in my argumentation later. But the way in which this principle stands is to suggest that we ought to do everything in our capacity to maximize the way in which women are seen equally in society, but the way in which they are contributing to society because we think that's part of being an equal human being. The second, changes in the community. There are three ways in which I will prove the status quo is quite harmful to women. The first is society. There is a conception of two things in Singapore. First, there is a conception that women aren't doing their fair share because they don't lose 2 years of their life. The point at which men are in conscription for 2 years, women are seeking education, end up starting off their careers earlier. But the second, there's an artificial conception that women have achieved equality in Singapore, i.e. they are business women, they're quite in power, I think the wage gap is quite smaller there. As a result of this, we think these two things harm women with regards to this, the status quo in the following 2 ways. First, this model heavily enforces the gender binary, where there is no need to enforce it. We think women are placed into positions where they opt into their specific gender or the conscriptions or the identities their genders have been constructed by. So their inherent weaknesses tied to not being able to opt into conscription, i.e. they're weaker, they're less able to do menial jobs. This is true in Singaporean society, where very few women opt into menial hard labor, but are put into positions like secretary, nursing, because those are seen to be more in line with their credentials. They didn't serve 2 years in the military, they probably don't know what it means to do hard labor. But second, this is also the way in which legislation is literally locked out in Singapore. The point in which legislation is pro-feminist, i.e. the custody balance being a bit more favorable to women, or in a world in which women wanted more and more access to contraception, the way in which Singaporeans react to this is to suggest women didn't do their fair share. The 2 years that men spent suffering, women didn't do it. So obviously there is no need to compensate them further than they currently are. This is strong because the feminist movement is literally beholden to this, because it cannot say that it wants equality, but it's okay with this one way in which women are privileged, and therefore we think it's handicapped in the way it pursues its current economic goals. Second, conscription. We say conscription currently harms women for 2 ways. First is the hyper-masculine structure. As a result of just being no women within that, I'm going to sing to you a song that they currently sing. It's called Purple Light. See my girlfriend with another, kill her boyfriend, rape my girlfriend. So that's a thing that happens in the military. The point at which women decide they no longer want to be with their boyfriend because they are in like 2 years of military. This is literally sought to incentivize men to take control of their women. This thing is powerful because it creates a trope that indeed women are not as kind to men in the military. And secondly, they are indeed subservient because if you are serving the country, women are not. This is a structural thing that we think how the way A, women interact with society, or B, they interact with the workplace. Third, opportunities. If you exit the military after conscription, you immediately start with a higher salary. Women don't get such effort. In fact, it's harder to fight for higher wages. The point at which people say he left the military after 2 years of conscription, he deserves a higher pay than you do. So with the point at which there is a need for promotion, women are literally locked out because you don't have the capacity to say you contributed to your national identity. How do we change it? There are a couple of ways we change it. The first, we think, is the amount of women we get in our. The point at which there are huge numbers of women. The first thing I would suggest is that hyper-masculine structures are less able to permeate, in that there's more check against it. The more you are abusive to women, women are likely to report this, women are more likely to stand with each other. If there is rape, women are more likely to report on behalf of other women. But the second thing I'll suggest is there's more ability for interactions to exist. This is pivotal because the point at which tropes exist about hyper-masculinity or raping your girlfriend, with the interactions are the first step in which you correct such measures. This happens in 2 ways. The first suggestion is that with the interactions would actually change the men before they start interacting with hyper-masculinity. So the men who just entered conscription, we say we're better able to capture them. But second, the already hyper-masculine men, the point at which we interact with them and they realize that there's going to be a check to their sexism, or their sexism can't go unopposed. We think they're less likely to be able to A, be vocal about it, but B, spread the message they currently do. Third, we think opportunities are likely to be better for a couple of reasons. The first, we think as a result of this, women entering conscription, we think they exit conscription with the same amount of capacity to garner wages. Secondly, we think there's huge amounts of networking that exists in conscription and women are currently locked out. 2 years of your life spent in a military with huge amounts of men who are from elite institutions are more likely to have families with legacies. They have the ability to be friends with other men. They don't have the ability to be friends with other women. This networking goes into your careers, goes into your opportunities, the way in which you get funding. All these things we say women are likely to be and have access to. Therefore, we think women have, or at least give people like Brooklyn. Okay, that's on live stream, better delete that. The point at which there is no need to separate men versus women. A lot more trans individuals are likely to enter, so they don't have to pick within one or the other. We think we enable those individuals as well. But lastly, we think legislation is more likely to be passed easier because you now don't have the huge opposition that suggests that women aren't doing their fair share for the country. How do you expect to benefit from a community and receive more taxpayer dollars for the things that you think are important, but you don't contribute to the same structures that keep our society safe? For all these reasons, we would suggest that we are far better off if we started this fight. It's not as if this fight is impossible, but we don't start it now. We think the path becomes significantly harder. I beg you to propose.
Thank you very much. Let's call on the first second.
When First Affirmative tells you that the military in Singapore is canon for the development of your national identity, and they have a respect and are put in a higher pedestal than the rest of the society, I think that that's when it makes it extremely more difficult for you to be able to change the structures within the military, and therefore you doom a lot of women who go into the military with their unchanged structures for them to suffer in that sense, right? So I think that in that case, they lose out a lot in this debate without describing the conditions of what this conscription looks like and what do these women have to go through when they're conscripted into the military, and that they therefore do not have a choice. We think that's something that is extremely detrimental to the feminist movement as well. Look, they may argue to you that men are conscripted. Why is it okay for men who may not be able to cope with the conditions of the conscription? Why is it okay for them? We'd like to posit to you that just because you do one evil doesn't mean that you have to do other evils, right? So we think that in this case, women should have that particular choice in order for them to be able to do so. And I think that if you have enough political capacity for you to be able to allow women and all women to be conscripted and have full inclusion within the armed forces, I think that then that's when you're also likely for them to be able to have that choice without having to have to go through that 10-year contract. I think that that's a way better model in our world, right? So that's what we will be more likely to push for. Once we push for the ability of choice for individuals who do want to do this and allow individuals who don't want to do this to be able to opt out of the conscription. Two things that I'll be talking about in this video. One, why is this a bad method of achieving equality in general? And second, why is conscription specifically necessarily bad for women who go into it, especially where they didn't want to choose to do this thing, right? But first, why is this a bad method to achieving equality? I'm grateful to you that choice is a prerequisite for you in achieving that much equality, but we would like to posit to you that choice itself is a form of equality. Because if you want to look at the feminist movement in terms of spectrums of the objectives that they want, each and every individual woman wants different things in their lives. So therefore, we think that the most objective metric for you to decide on what the feminist movement should do is based on maximizing the ability for them to make choices, therefore they can live through their full capacity. I will told you that women want the full utility of them going through the same experiences of men. We think that that's an assumption that she is imposing upon all women. We think that that's not necessarily the case. However, in that when you maximize that choice, women who do want to do this have the ability to do so, and women who don't want to do this are able to access their full utility in their own way, according to their own definition of what that utility necessarily means to them. So that this is necessarily a better form. We think that conscription itself and the limitation of choice that comes with conscription is against the principles of feminism in allowing the maximization of choice to women and to women. Second, we think that it's illegitimate for you to make a backroom grab out of these women who are forced to go to the conscription for the benefit of the larger majority. Because we think that one, that's speculative to begin with. They had never proved a structural analysis. How does this necessarily translate into the changes within society? Especially when society looks up to the military and are unlikely to question whatever things that they do. And we think that if you think about it, right? If both all women and all men go to the military, they are equal in that sense. Still, people are still going to look for differences in other areas, and therefore, them being equal on that pedestal doesn't necessarily mean that they will gain the same amount of respect. We think that will gain the same amount of respect if that society was as misogynistic or as patriarchal as I wanted to portray to you. We think that those differences will still be found out, will still be looked for within this particular society, right? So we don't think that this necessarily assures equality. We think that especially when you cannot allow these women who are earlier conscripted to become a battering ram, because we think that that's when, one, you lose the support of a lot of the individuals who are currently supporting feminist movement because of the amount of women who don't necessarily want to do this. They will then end up not supporting your particular feminist movement, which means that you're unlikely to get any further changes in the future. The reason why the feminist movement in Singapore is successful now is because they don't do this particular thing. I mean, that's when they get a lot of support, when they push for more social changes in that sense, right? So we think that in that sense. Lastly, as to why this is a bad method to achieve equality, we think that the metric in which side affirmative is using in order to define what equality is are metrics of masculinity. which means that when you go into the military, you then have to compete with the aggressiveness and the masculinity which is inherent within the military in order for you to prove yourself worthy within your society. I mean that this is terrible because a lot of individuals cannot properly access this kind of thing. We think that there should be a respect towards femininity as well. That the approach of pushing women to be more masculine in order for them to fit in society is terrible because you lock out a lot of individuals who cannot access this. And we think that if you have a respect for masculinity and then you also have respect for femininity as well, too, especially individuals who cannot do hard labor, for example, right? Who cannot do hard labor, that's when you're more likely to get that equality and respect for both genders as well. We think that that achievement of equality and that metric is better in our world when you don't further emphasize the metric of masculinity being the basis of equality within Singapore. But secondly, why is it better that why is conscription necessarily bad for women? Because affirmative failed to analyze what this conscription necessarily looks like. We think that one, the military structures within that particular within the Singaporean military are the topmost part of that hierarchy are dominated by men. This means that oftentimes when you're conscripted within the military, you don't necessarily get those high positions immediately. You're more likely to be put in the lower positions. What does this necessarily mean? This means that the women who go into your military are still susceptible to these patriarchal structures, regardless of how large their number is. Because even if there's a demand from the inside for these structures to change, we think that because of the power and the chain of command that exists in the military, these people are oftentimes unable to voice out their opinions and unable to voice out their oppressions. We can see this if you were to look at the stories of individuals who just got out of conscription, the amount of abuse that they have to go through, the amount of torture that they have to go through, and they don't have any ability to say anything about it because it's the freaking military, right? We think that that amount of respect for the military doesn't allow for any form of change, even from the inside, even with a large amount of demand from that. We think that this is even more terrible when we want to talk about trans people, right? Because we think that even if you're a trans individual, when you go into the military, you are then and know that this looks like when you have both men and women going forced to be conscripted, you basically are saying that you should conscript everyone, right? This means that for trans individuals, especially Singapore being an Asian country, it's more likely that your trans woman will be forced to be in the same dorms and the same camps as men. We know that's extremely terrible for their safety because all these instances of rape and all these instances of sexual harassment oftentimes don't get reported because of that hierarchy within that military as well. So it's terrible for these individuals. But even more, why conscription is terrible for women, because how the military works is that they oftentimes, when you just join that military, they diminish your confidence in order so that you don't retaliate and you're more likely to follow the chain of command. What does this look like for women? This means that they're told day by day that they're worthless and they have to listen to their male superiors. This means that when they go out and they finish their service, that's when they are forced to listen to other people because they've been trained for 3 years to have that thought. Let's say they grew up being told that them being in the military forces them more to believe in that particular narrative. That's comparatively better, but they don't have to go to this military conscription, are able to compete in the economic industry, for example, with the absence of the men of their peers. We think that that's when they're more likely to strive and people are more likely to give them that respect. We think that people are able to acknowledge their contributions to the nation towards their economy and the contributions towards the nation from the military for something to be some form of contribution as well. Therefore, we think that that's when they're more likely to get support as well. For all those reasons, we think that conscription is terrible for women, and the idea that this provides equality is completely ludicrous.
Thank you very much. Let's move on to the second topic.
I would posit that the context that we're talking about when we're talking about Singapore is an incredibly unique one. One in which is probably true that there are sexist tendencies that run throughout society, but they're not immediately evident to the human eye. These are things that include, for example, the ability of women to be promoted, but perhaps not as much as men, the ability for women to have equal opportunities to be hired, perhaps, but are less likely to be given an equal salary, for instance. Women are more often, when they are younger, pushed towards certain kinds of jobs that they are seen to be more suitable for, rather than other kinds of jobs like being engineers that men are more likely to be incentivized to do. And I think that the way in which this sexism manifests within Singapore is not so much the idea that women are seen as outright inferior, but rather are pushed towards differing spheres of society they ought to occupy, and the way in which this happens is incredibly insidious and incredibly subconscious. One of the strongest institutions within Singapore that continues to propagate this myth is that of national service, where the literal physicality and physical ability, as well as mental capacity and resilience of individuals, is something that is used. Women are inherently different from men, and therefore should inherently occupy different spheres from what men should. This is the context that we must take into account when we evaluate the arguments that are given from opposition. Because let's firstly talk about this principle of choice. I think that's very simplistic to simply point out that choice in itself is equality. Therefore, the feminist movement should never fight for anything that restricts choice. At the end of the day, the ability of the feminist movement to propagate any messages oftentimes restricts the choice of some measure of women who believe in the things that are counter to those particular things the feminist movement wants to fight for. So, for instance, arguably, when the feminist movement fights for more equality in the workplace, this necessarily on some level removes the ability of women who want to be in a position where they are able to unilaterally and without any sort of countervailing ideal choose to be more family people, for instance. And the point at which they get more workplace representation, this might go against certain conservative families who believe that women ought to be at home. So in and of itself, this is too simplistic a principle for them to fight for. But I would secondly argue that the way in which we structure the idea of choice is this, that to the extent which we recognize that men continue to serve national service, it is not sufficient to simply say that we should not propagate more evils, because the existence of men within military service propagates a specific ideals and stereotypes that later limit the ability of women outside society to be able to have more choices and more equality than they otherwise would have. So what they are doing is trading off the most visible forms of coercion and equality or choice for restricted choices outside society that are much more pernicious and much harder to fight back against. So I don't think this principle specifically stands in this debate. Let's firstly talk about whether or not women are treated worse in the military. And I think there was some argumentation here. I'm going to take them down one by one. The first thing that they said was that women will still be seen as different and therefore are not going to be able to get equality. And the analysis that they gave to this is that they posited that women now have to compete in aggression. But that's not the way that the reality works. So firstly, within the military itself, there are different ranks of physical fitness. There are things that are being tested before men go into the military. So they are seen as pass analysis between A to E, where A is one in which you are combat fit and have to go through the most rigorous forms of training, and where E is one where you're seen as not combat fit and are put into desk-bound jobs, for instance, in order to compensate for the fact that you recognize that people are different and have different ways of being or different abilities to serve within that structure of the military. But the core aspect of this is that men are still the ones who are seen to be expected and capable of serving the country in this particular manner, and women are not. So we think that in the converse, while women may have, for example, different physical standards that they are asked to apply for, that are applied to them when it comes to their ability to be seen as combat fit and the like, what we think is that it's a comparative to the extent which women are at least seen to be capable of serving in this institution rather than absolutely not as a whole. But secondly, we think that women and men both exist in the spectrum. To the extent to which men can be put past A to E, for instance, there are also physically stronger and more aggressive women, and there are women who perhaps conform to more traditional notions of what people think women are in terms of physical and mental capacities. This means that the interaction between this spectrum is far more likely as a whole to allow for more women to be able to stand toe-to-toe with various kinds of men, and other men to be seen as being not that different from women, especially when they are viscerally seen to be serving side by side in certain occupations that were seen to be traditionally reserved for women or men who are more like women. Rather now, it is seen to be something that the collective Singaporean identity as a whole is able to serve. We don't think that you just lose out when you compete aggression. That's too unnuanced of you to think of the military. The second thing that they told us about this is that the second argument that they gave us for this is that the idea that now women are not being heard because top positions within the military are all dominated by men. I can agree that this is true, and the reason for that is very simple, that only and largely only men serve in the military right now. The comparative on the outside of the house, absolutely no change, in which you never introduce women into this structure, and you have no hope whatsoever of changing those structures within the military. Right now, women who wish to join the military have to sign up as a career. There is no option for you to enter national service as a person who simply wants to opt into the national service. Their counterfactual was that we'll just give women the choice. But there are a few problems with this. Firstly, because I think that exceedingly this is going to be an incredibly unpopular choice for women to take. Because to the extent which you have the choice to be able to like enter into the workforce, enter into university or go into physical labor, you're more likely to choose no than yes. But the reason why we need to implement this unilaterally, because we need to recognize that the way we manage perception, and in fact even just on the principle level of equality, it is important that women as a whole are seen to be a group that are all under the same obligations and can contribute similarly in the reciprocal duty of national service as men do. It cannot be a choice that's given to each individual woman. Also because the idea that you're offering women a choice only further entrenches the idea that only certain women who are more like men are able to succeed and contribute in equal manners, and then women who don't conform to the stereotype of the ability to be able to compete equally are not able to do so. But next, I would argue that when it comes to the idea of whether or not women are able to speak up in the military, I think there is a comparative, because right now, women who try to ascend to the higher ranks of the military are not able to ever actually contribute the differing ways in which they think that it is better for them to be able to like deal with their troops, but rather are actually forced to compete in the specific aggression that they are talking about, where they have to be seen to be tougher on their men, even more so than the male officers, because you have to prove that even as a man in a male-dominated society who are really seen as physically weaker, you are still capable of doing your job. That is how you are able to silence all women from ever having any sort of like input in the way that the military structures are being done. In a world in which there's an equal number of both men and women, we think that women's voices are empowered because you are at least able to say that even if you don't buy that these structures are more suited towards men, at least you can buy that these are more suited towards the women within your military. And over time, that's how you normalize different ways of being able to be in charge in the military. But the last analysis that I'm going to put here is that to the extent to which they want to cry rape, for instance, or sexual assault cases, I would firstly posit that that's not actually a huge problem in Singapore. Like if you see in the country, we generally are quite regulated. We generally have like pretty good like ways in which we are able to stop these things from happening. But I think secondly, this is less likely to happen at a point at which men don't see women as having an unfair advantage, don't see them as being alien and not contributing equally, but rather see them as comrades that they can stand toe to toe with, that they have gone through like national service and physical labor with. If you look at the way that men who exit national service talk about the people in their platoon, for example, it's like we're brothers, we're family, and the like. But the comparative on their side of the house, that they do nothing about the gender binary and toxic masculinity that exists right now in the society. In a world in which these men are now able, for example, to be in a system where they grow to become resentful that women are not there. In the most depressive moments, they blame the women for not being there and contributing in an equal manner. In a world in which, for example, this is manifested by them making fun of women, by them like talking shit about women because there's absolutely no one whatsoever there to check against them, and there's nothing to stop the worst excesses of this masculinity from coming out. We're very happy to propose.
Thank you very much. I'd like to call the second speaker.
People always say when I start my debate, I always have some sad stories to tell. So let me tell you a sad story, right? So when I was in 15, I joined the military camp from my school. And what happened was, at night they call us up to their dorms because our generals and our higher rank brothers wants to beat us up because they feel stressed because of training that evening. And then afterwards, they tie out our dicks with strings and tie the end of the string to a freaking fan and make that fan move, and we have to move together with that fan to ensure that our dicks literally are not pulled off. I'm sorry if this is like live streamed and everything. What happens next? We tried to report this to the higher ups, and do you know what they told you? 3 things. First, that this is a tradition, that you shouldn't question tradition, that this is part of our brotherhood, this is part of how we work, this is part of how we discipline you, this is how we train you to become stronger. And then I told my parents about it. You know what they told me? They told me it's fine, because the military is something which we look up to, that the military is something we need to protect its integrity, do not tarnish the good name of the military, because it will mean that our military will be seen as weak. That is the world in which this side literally wants to put girls, young 17-year-old girls,
into a world where in the instance you want to report, you are unable to do so. I'm going to look at a few things in my speech. First, are you actually good? Okay, first let's talk about choice, whether or not choice matters, whether or not it exists in status quo. Number two, the contingency in their work is that you are able to make military better when you are able to enter the military. I will tell you why, but in that best case scenario, it is untrue. Last, I'm going to look at full rights outside and whether or not we're actually going to make women equal at the end of the day. So first, let me talk about choice. They told you guys, coercion is fine insofar as you're able to get change for women outside, insofar as you're going to maximize utility. I have a few reasons to this. I have a few responses to this. First, this is contingent that you actually get change outside, only then choice or coercion is legitimate in their work. Few things to respond here. First, if it's true that you are able to classify men into A, B, C, and D and E rank, for example, and you are able to also classify women into such ranks, we tell you this makes it hard for them to maximize utility at the end of the day. How is this true? First, women who actually enter and get into the rank of A, for example, is oftentimes seen as abnormal, hypoandrogynous. You are not necessarily a woman, you are closer to a man. Imagine the kinds of things in which the person who wants to promote you tries to say. So, for example, yes, you might have the capacity to say, I participate in the military, but then that person then asks you, what rank were you then afterwards? When you say A, but damn, you're a freaking man, you're not a dude, you're a guy or do something like that. And therefore will mean that the kinds of perception that people have onto you will become one in which is demeaning and vilifying onto you as a woman. Two, when you are class E in the system, and this is like taking us at their best case scenario, right? When you are class E as a woman, put in a rank or position where you are weak in comparison to men, I feel like this entrenches all of the binary that exists within status quo. So yes, you can have the capacity to say that I was part of the military, I sort of served the military, for example, I served the country, but you did not serve the country as much as the people who actually are in class A. So it doesn't make any difference in comparison. What is the comparative in our world? That's why we told you from the beginning that things are, for example, fighting through economic reformation, for example, getting businesswomen to have capacity to open up businesses, education that exists in the status quo. Political participation that is oftentimes very rampant and very inclusive for women to a point in which you literally have a female hijabi Muslim president as president. These are the kinds of political participations that exist. I think that's particularly fine. At the end of the day, they are unable to maximize choice, but rather demean women who are unable to get the same standards as men at the end of the day. Second, let's talk about whether or not you actually can get change within the military. And this is important and key because large extents of harm that exists in their work can only be mitigated insofar as they're able to then change the structure. I have 6 reasons why you're unable to do this. First, you are highly appreciated in the military and oftentimes looked up. This means that every time you want to report, you're oftentimes either A, your family tell you to shut up. Number 2, society doesn't listen to you and believe that this is something untrue. Or 4, even if this is true, it's oftentimes that they will sweep this under the rug to ensure some level of integrity of the military in order for the military to not seem as weak because this is national identity onto them. Number 2, there exist hierarchies within military. That is to say that oftentimes the men that will screw you up in military are also men with higher positions or higher hierarchy. That means that even if you want to report, oftentimes either A, that higher hierarchy has the capacity to silence or like literally like put this away, or number 2, they have the ability to lobby not to do anything even further. 3, exist structures of respect and power. That is to say that in an instance in military where you want to go against that structure of respect and power, you are screwed over even more. 5, oftentimes you are also trained to be silent. That is to say that when women enter into the military at the age of 10 to the age of 17 or 18, right, oftentimes you still have the capacity, like these men still have the capacity to change how the way in which you view the military and its systems. That is to say that they will train you to make you believe that the things in which you are doing onto you is legitimate for things like, for example, discipline and trying to do things like tradition at the end of the day. 7, like things like 6, also note that the structures of accountability for military is oftentimes very separate. Things like, for example, military courts or like small tribunals that exist in very small cases within the military. That is to say that they are unable to get the amount of transparency over the cases and reports that exist within the military because of these separate structures. Oftentimes, things like, for example, these military tribunals and military courts oftentimes try to separate things like, for example, allowing people to actually read about the reports because this means that the military is able to become inclusive, and therefore in conclusion to these 6 reasons, they are unable to change anything at the end of the day. But second, they told you, guys, If you don't join the military, you are unable to change its structures, even if it's bad. I say it's better if you don't change it, if it means women don't even enter the military at all. I think that even if this argument is true, I'm perfectly fine at the end of the day. So, last, let's talk about actually changing things within status quo. First, I will tell you, honor and valor within the military is a lie. Oftentimes, the ones that actually get the honor and valor are either A, the ones who are already in high-ranking positions, which are oftentimes already held by men. That is to say that these are the individuals that usually have the say over things like, for example, accountability structures that exist or trying to lobby for further rights. Your women are unable to climb up those ranks. Because if it's true that national identity is tied to actually being in the military, and the military is predominantly men, these men are more likely going to hold on to power, cling on to power to ensure that they are within the hierarchy, and therefore necessarily mean, even if all women are in the military, they are not high-ranking positions. At the end of the day, they are unable to change anything. Number two, this argument about you can change elections and change parliament, right? But the change in parliament is contingent on either A, elections, or two, they are accountable to the people. Singapore election accountability, I think these people have never heard of these things, right? So, meaning to say that even if you get all of the women within Singapore to join, you are unable to change structures of parliament. What's the comparative? You tell these women to join politics, you tell these women to join economic structures, and this is comparatively better under our world. Last, what if we don't get any change at all in our world? Why do we still wait? Because you have to note that the benefits that exist within inside affirmative is speculative in nature, in comparison to the definite harm in which women have to face when they enter into these militaries, means that it does not matter if you get any change in their world, if it means that you come at the cost of the suffering and pain of these women. I don't necessarily think it's one in which the feminist movement should take.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I come on the feminist initiative.
Let's just first deal with the idea that the military is super abusive and super torturous to individuals who join through conscription. Understand that there's a difference between militaries that are separate from public, spheres, which is say that militaries that are exclusive while recruiting and forming structures, versus militaries that have to take in all the youths at the age of 18, which is say that, for example, Israel, which has mandatory conscription. Militaries, in comparison, which have mandatory conscription, have more accountability towards the people because of the mandatory nature of the service, which is say that you as an individual at some point in time in your life will definitely have to join the military. That by default creates an accountability factor within that system, which is say that I as a family, I as an individual, as a citizen, will either have a family member joining military or a son or a daughter or someone who is entering into the military. That is why recently when Singapore had 2 deaths within the military service, there was a huge uproar within the Singaporean society that enabled them to cut back in the number of hours of a particular activity that caused those deaths within military. We say that when military in and of itself has to be inclusive of those people, they are forced to change these structures. Secondly, if you think that this is uniquely problematic for women, then the only way that you can change this is to balance out the power structures within that system. We say that when you have to conscript all the women, then all of those women have to join the structures. How does it change things? Within vast majority of instances, there is by default some power in numbers. We say that when you have huge droves of people joining into the military, they are more able to seek for accountability, because given the fact that these are the youth of the society, with the society by default is protective of. especially in a lot of instances, because of the Asian society being protective of women, for example, you have that accountability, both from the external factors, also the internal factors. We say that you cannot get away with abusing just 1 or 2 women because women are minority in the vast majority of militaries in the world. Here, women are not a minority. They are a group, and they are groups that can collectively fight for their rights within the military structures because of the power of numbers that they have. Thirdly, we think that by default, given that the feminist movement is fighting for this, the feminist movement in and of itself has a responsibility to make sure that there is some form of accountability within the structures of the military, the point at which they push women to join into the conscription. Given that the feminist movement is able to use the sorts of lobbying power and the political capital that they have, which both sides concede to and agree to, we think that the feminist movement itself is able to lobby for these things. We think that in general, if you have to remove hyper-toxic masculinity from within these structures, the only way to do so, by the way, all the abuses that they talk about stem from one problem within military, that is hyper-masculine in nature. If you have to change the hyper-masculinity within military, that is the root cause of all of these problems that stem from it, then you need to include women who bring in a perspective in the formative years of men. We say that when men are at the age of 17 or 18, they're still forming their worldview as to how these things work. And the only way that you can change these things from not getting toxic in terms of masculinity is to make sure that they are not in a sausage fest where they're constantly in a culture where they're taught that women are weaker. They said that men are by default more superior because we're the ones serving the national obligation, right? We're the ones who are only defending the country. At that point in time, if you see women working just as hard, so statistically it's true that in Israel, for example, when you consider both men and women, there were lots of women in positions of combat, right? It's not just true that women by default are segregated into lower positions as opposition would want you to believe. They do occupy positions of combat in certain times. Sure, the Singaporean military in and of itself is not as active as the Israeli military. This also means that in certain points in time, you see women working side by side with you because that's the nature of jobs that conscripted individuals have to do. When you see women working side by side with you for the same nature of jobs, that is the point at which your perception of women and your ability to entrench that toxic masculinity within you is removed by the introduction of women. That's when you have discourse within military societies as to how men and women can both contribute to national service, not just men, where by default you get a feeling of superiority. Then they have this weird idea of choice and how choice in and of itself is something that's good. Let's understand this. Our goal from the get-go has been to prove to you that society forms their perceptions around conscription in a way that enforces the gender binary. The point at which you, as the feminist movement, are advocating for choice for women rather than full inclusion for women is the point at which you're reinforcing the same problem again and again. That is when they view women as O, but they do not want mandatory conscription. Therefore, A, they are less able to perform military, national service. B, they as women are being privileged with that choice when men are not, which is say that men still have to go through mandatory conscription, but women somehow have to be privileged. At that point in time, as my first speaker pointed out to you, never rebutted by any of the speakers, when you view women as someone who's already getting a privilege at a particular point in their lives, you're less likely to be able to giving them leeway in terms of the jobs and the sorts of economic opportunities that they go for. So, for example, it reinforces the gender binary that women are less capable, for example, of serving national service side by side economic service, where you reinforce the gender binary of women being weaker than men constantly. The micro effects of this is huge, which is say that when you enforce the gender binary, one of the most vicious things of gender binary is leadership, which is say that when you associate masculine traits with leadership constantly, that has an impact on every sphere of work that exists throughout society. Which is at the point at which the men, and overall narrative within society is that women are less strong than men. The conclusion of all of those narratives is women are less able of leading and less able of being in positions of power. That in and of itself is particularly problematic, especially in economic spheres and in certain spheres where you want women to do menial jobs, for example. Women right now do not have access to jobs that require manual labor because constantly men are thought of capable of doing that because of the nature of conscription that happened throughout the Singaporean society. They, for example, are regarded as a weaker gender constantly because of not being able to do so. But more importantly, there are certain intangible benefits that you draw from conscription as well. As my first speaker pointed out, like you have the networking skills that you create from being with men from elite institutions constantly, that women never get an opportunity to mingle with other women from elite institutions or non-elite institutions, form their own networking and bonding that allow them to go out there in society and form the connections in a small, geographically small society like Singapore, where it benefits you. In comparison, when women are put into conscription altogether, then at that point in time, women themselves are able to form these points of networking and are able to then forward these points of networking to further their careers and further their lives, their lives into it. The conclusion of all of this is simple. If you want choice for women to be expanded beyond a particular age, beyond a particular point, then you have to remove this conception that women are less able or unable to serve this national obligation that is so significant to the minds of the Singaporean people that it literally ingrains to them from the formative years of 18 to 20 or 20 to 22 that women are less capable of doing things. Because if you are to move in a society or you want to change the perception of men in positions of power who are literally in the positions of recruiting, hiring, and promoting women, you have to change this perception from that very year. Incredibly proud to propose.
Thank you very much. I'd like to call on the third next.
In affirmative's world, upon graduating high school, your 17 years old girl who were raised with Asian values of believing in submissiveness, respecting their male counterparts, are going to be sent to a military. And they have the audacity to think that this move somehow can create some form of equality in the future, can somehow eradicate hypermasculinity that already exists in that military structure. The same structure that takes pride on the idea of hierarchy and have every incentive to maintain that hierarchy, because essentially, this is how they gain power in the first place. I don't think by increasing numbers, even if you send all the girls to that particular military, you're able to create any change, given the mindset of these girls when they entered that particular sphere. Even if, right, I would tell you that I think it's terrible that you send the narrative that the reason why women in Singapore currently don't get enough is because they're not doing enough. I think that's a horrible victim blaming from side affirmative. If it's true, when Shirmei said that the problem are not apparent, it happens implicitly, that means your problem perhaps are not serious when juxtaposed the kind of certain harm that could happen when you send these girls to your military. And if it's true that you already have your NGOs, your purple movement and whatnot existing, that proves that campaigning can work. That means trying to educate people can work. Even if it takes a long time, at least you avoid that certain harm, especially when that benefit is very speculative, even to this part of this debate. Two questions I have. One, why is military the most unaccommodating, if not a very dangerous place for women of that age to go to? Secondly, in which world are women better off? But before I go on to my question, I really want to deal with this whole idea of power and number of women. I think that is not true when you say if you send a large number of women, they're able to change things because they're quite submissive. Especially when you put them in a place where they are going to get indoctrinated, where they're going to get used to a regime that tells them that they have to be obedient. We think it's less likely that they're going to stop. But you need to understand, numbers can also hurt. You may have one or two women who have the tendency to be outspoken, but because the majority of other women choose not to talk about, she will feel as if she's going to be the odd one out. She will feel as if this is a norm that my people have to conform to, my gender have to conform to. So I don't think that numbers can somehow translate to something good. If you try to use Israel as a parallel, an example, I don't think that works because they have a different goal altogether. Their military requires numbers from both sides of the gender. The same doesn't apply to Singapore because it's just a part of that, building your citizens to make sure they're obedient and whatnot. I don't see how it is seen. Moving on into my questions, right? Onto why military is a terrible abuse. I think John already explained explicitly to you that the military system is very misogynistic. You're immersed in a system whereby toxic masculinity, is very high, right? So in the worst form, these people are exposed to things like getting harassed, getting touched inappropriately, or even in its mildest form, they have to deal with things like sexist comments. They have to deal with microaggression of someone making you feel uncomfortable when they keep staring at your boobs, or they give snide comments about you. But what's even worse is that even if, let's say, they don't do awkward stuff, given that military operates in a way that is very toxic in nature, that is a constant reminder to these girls that you are inferior, that you are less, that when they put a measure of strength and whatnot, you are unable to accommodate to those men's standards. Therefore, you are going to be constantly reminded that you are less. We don't see how that changes the mindset of the woman. If anything, you made it worse, because these are the same women when they go outside need to create that change. But if they don't believe that they're worth something because of that particular training that they do in conscription, you don't get that change in the future. And we don't see how the training regimes is going to change, because they need to make sure they're able to maintain that hierarchy in order for them to get power. That means the certain immediate benefit that you're going to get when you send these girls to that particular regime is they're going to get harassed. They probably have to deal with sexism, and they'll be constantly reminded that they are inferior. I don't see how that's going to translate into anything good. And I think M already told you that he gave you multiple reasons as to why those things are unable for you to check on it, because of how sometimes these things are committed by those who are more superior than you. It's difficult that you have to report to the same person that commit the same form of harassment to you. You are unable to get this. But let's take a look at the response that came from Side Affirmative, where they said, oh, these people, when they go out, they're also going to become voters, so they can vote against you and bring up those issues, blah, 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 whatnot. I don't think that's true. Because when you go through that training regime, you're already indoctrinated and always believe that these government are always right. Therefore, it's very less likely that you're going to voice out your concern against them. But let's take a look at the kind of benefit that they want in trading off of this all particular harm that you need to take if you give Side Affirmative the win. And this is where I'm going to go on to my second crash. The benefit of networking and perception. M already told you why this is not something that is of a value, because of the position that you held does not necessarily translate into you having a good network. If anything, in their best case, let's say you don't get harassed in sexist comments, that means you're more likely going to collude among your girls. That means your network are also all girls that probably cannot give you any form of benefit in the future, right? The kind of skills that you get are probably menial skills, because you probably are assigned to like lesser things because you don't see you have the strength, you don't have the bravery to do all these things. Even if let's say 1 or 2 people sprout out, I don't see how that's a benefit that is worth it. But what's even worse is that even if, let's say, you get all those particular skills, when you go out to work, you are still going to get compared to the men who have the same amount of skills, if not more, the same amount of network, if not more. So there's not much change. What should you do with that 3 years instead? I think this is where I've told you, where, you know, you should buy, it would be better if you join economic structures whereby you could, like empower yourself economically if you work for that 3 years. You can get a different skill set altogether that could distinguish you from the same skill set that you could have gotten in that particular conscription, which will not benefit you at all. So we think when it comes to the points of network, it doesn't change much. When it comes to the point of perception, it doesn't change much. But why is it that this perception is dangerous when you want to campaign and at the same time send people to conscription? I think NGOs work better when they, on the same breath, does not acknowledge the narrative that women needs to work hard in order to attain their right. It's much easier for them to say you should give women these rights because they deserve that particular protection. And this is why you cannot exist. Those things cannot exist side by side. Even if, let's say, we have to take the narrative of them being privileged, that is better than having a victim blaming narrative that stops this woman from speaking out about the kind of rights that they need. But let's take a look at how they cushion this particular argument. What are they trading off in that particular clash? They said it's okay to remove that particular choice. You know, even if it's coerced, you give them equality. I think the whole idea why we want equality is because we want choice in the first place. But then they tell us, what about future choices? Let's take a look at what these future choices look like. Women who want to opt into doing hard labor, women who want to opt into armed forces. Right, okay. In the context of Singapore or in Asian countries in general, when you were raised in a certain manner, I don't think majority of women would want to opt into those things. They perhaps have a different preference. Maybe what they would want more is probably join the corporate world that is also male-dominated. But you don't need to look at national services histories. I think it's better if you have like some experience of working, and that could give you the edge of these men who went through your national services. So even if there's some benefit, it's very much little compared to the kind of choice that they are willing to trade off. Then they tried to bring this little benefit from their world whereby they said, oh, in our world, hypermasculinity is less. I don't think that's true, and I don't see an analysis as to how that is going to work. If anything, the constant entrenching of hypermasculinity, not just onto men, but also onto women who are unable to speak about this and in a way have to condone this particular thing, makes hypermasculinity even worse for you to question and for you to combat. At the end of the day, let's take a look at the best case. Sorry, let's take a look at the worst case on our side. Even if we don't get equality in the short term. Even if it takes a longer time for us to achieve all this form of choices, even if they're locked out from some choices, perhaps those choices are not the most important choices, perhaps those choices are not the choices that can benefit the majority, we're okay with that trade-off. Because the kind of things that we need to prioritize right now is the safety of that woman, the safety of that woman, and the ability for her to believe that she is not inferior and have some experiences that can make her feel she's different and worth the right.
Thanks very much for the next last speaker.
Can't believe I'm saying this, but like, you really know a team is losing when the only thing that they can respond to 6 structures of why you are unable to change accountability with the military is that we have numbers and we can lobby in Singapore. I have a few things to look at in this speech. First, let's look at whether or not you can actually create accountability and change structures within the military and whether or not that would actually benefit women in there. And number 2, how are you actually going to change things outside? So first, let's look at accountability and actually changing structures within the military. They told you, guys, you are able to lobby for things, you are able to report because you are large in numbers, and therefore either A, those numbers are able to change things, or number 2, the feminist movement, in addition to NGOs, are able to change stuff. But look, this is like sort of disingenuous to large amounts of matter that we gave you as to 6 reasons why you are unable to change those structures. And why do those all 6 matter? First, because what kind of girl is going to actually report on abuses on her when throughout the life in the military she has been told that this is tradition, that this is how we discipline you, that this is normal, that this is something that you should have accepted at the very end of the day. Number 2, and this is the one that even if reporting and numbers become true, why you are unable to change this, is because changing things in the military either A, require you to actually have legislative change, or number 2, actually have high positions within the military in order for you to actually get some capacity to change. What was the response that we gave inside Negative? We told you in an instance where you want to challenge a nationalistic military, which oftentimes the identity is already attached with being male dominant, those male lieutenants, those male generals are more likely going to do things like, for example, cling on to power or make it hard for women to actually climb up those ranks by making it harder. Things like, for example, increasing the standards or increasing the characteristics in order for you to rise up those ranks, in which is hard for women to get at the end of the day. This concludes a few things. First, that women are still disproportionately harmed in their world, and necessarily mean that these people will literally put 17-year-old girls into a structure which is harmful onto them. But number 2, it is particularly hard to change because the military is as such. Then we got a response from them. They told you, guys, you are unable to change the military if you don't join. I say to join, get harmed, and change things is worse than not joining at all, because you are never harmed in the first place. I would rather take that trade-off and make it as such. Number 2, they told you, guys, we are able to change this in the outside and make women's lives better because they are able to remove structures of hyper-masculinity, and therefore all of the harms are changed. But if you notice, right, if you remove the excuse of women not joining military, they still can use the excuse that you are of a different rank, that you are different than other men because you are put in class systems. Those who are still exceptional by getting class A will still feel or will be still treated as either abnormal women or like hyper-androgynous women. Or number 2, when you are already in class C, B, and E, or for example lower than other forms of men, you are still entrenching structures of hyper-masculinity because you are still telling that you are lower in position in comparison to a lot of other men. That is to say that the kinds of benefits that they get are particularly marginal in nature. Why is that true? Because if you look at the characterization that came from Prime Minister, they told you a lot of benefits have been achieved in the past. Sherman told you that the way in which men oftentimes discriminate women is very discreet. So the kinds of benefits, even if it's true, are just like small in nature because you're not that oppressive, but you're discreetly oppressive. So any change is just small, right? So compare that marginal benefit that they get in their side versus a magnitude of harm that exists within the military. You have to go through coercion, you have to go through pain, you have to go through the humiliation of men harassing you, you have to go through sexist remarks that oftentimes are passed to you when you want to freaking shoot a gun. Compare that to the sheer magnitude of harm that exists. I think on that grounds alone, we win this debate.
Thank you very much. I'd like to call on the last speaker today, the flag. Yes.
saga where feminist movements like Aware, for example, called out the fact that there were sexist songs that were being sung within the military that normalized the idea of violence and rape against women. The corresponding response from men was that women should shut up and not speak about experiences that happened within the military because they were not a part of it, they didn't understand what was going on in there. The exclusion of women from the military that you've seen as normal within Singapore is the cause of a lot of discrimination against women, not just those who are currently within the military, but also the perception that men form about them in the most formative years of their life when they enter the workforce. We have two main clashes to this debate. Firstly, within the military, how do we change things? I think firstly I want to deal with this ludicrous idea that's coming out from opposition, that somehow women are still going to be seen as different when it comes to them being in less combat positions. Firstly, it's just completely uncomparative, because the comparative is women not being in the military and the perception they don't have to serve in the military, which creates resentment with men. But secondly, literally all the harms they're talking about how women are going to have to face the worst excesses of having their dicks tied to fans and having to run around is premised on the idea that they go through the same experience that men do and to go through the same kind of physical labor. So they need to choose the characterization of what kind of jobs women are going to be taking within the military. But I think they were also unresponsive to the argumentation that came on outside of the house, where we told you that not all women are going to be in PESC, some of them will be in PESC, some of them will be combat fit, some women will be working with men within like the PESC structures, perhaps. But that interaction is important. But secondly, also we told you the constant surveillance, the constant idea that men can be called out for their actions is also incredibly important, because the comparative right now is that there is none. Masculine behavior and actions against women are encouraged. They are seen to be an isolated bubble in which anything goes. In fact, you are celebrated for being able to talk about women in a derogatory manner. The third argumentation that we gave to them and utterly unresponded is the idea that exactly like in Israel, for example, women are now going to be seen as comrades. They are serving and sacrificing 2 years of their life alongside with men. They are not the ones who are reaping the benefits of being able to go out into the workforce early, and therefore they should be seen as someone who is more similar to men and the like. So as a result of this, we don't think the situation is dire as we painted it. But also we argue that we argued in government, we also received no response to the specific difference between conscription and other forms of military service where there's less scrutiny, is that conscription is non-consensual, which is literally the reason why in Singapore you are able to scrutinize the military, because these individuals are non-consensually being conscripted. Therefore, you have a greater obligation because they never consented to the kind of structures that you entered in, never responded to. So as a result, we don't think that the issue will be as bad as they do. We think that we can create change within the military. But also secondly, I think their argumentation relies on the fact that external change could happen without the ability, without ever changing what happens within the military right now. We argue that the fact that the military exists only for men was a pivotal cause for a lot of the gender stereotypes and sexism that existed within society. Firstly, because it created a hyper-masculine environment, but specifically during the formative years of men. And we need to remove an institutionalized system where such behavior is both seen as acceptable and encouraged. But we also told you that the reason why this is incredibly powerful was because we empowered the feminist movement as being seen as a movement that actually cares about substantial equality and not a hypocritical movement that only hid behind inequality and only fought for women's rights at a point at which it was beneficial towards them. This empowered the feminist movement to have a lot more sway and persuasion when it came to fighting for certain things in life. What was their alternative? The alternative is, in the 2 years, women at the age of 19 can join politics. Well, firstly, we literally parachute brigadier generals into becoming ministers in our cabinet, so I don't see how you create any sort of change there. But secondly, at a point at which women are seen to be incredibly unequal, I don't see how they'll be able to get those positions of economic prosperity or economic or political power if we can accept that men dominate those structures and men from existence or their experience and then see themselves as fundamentally different from every other woman who exists within Singapore, then I think that those men will similarly not be in a position to promote those women because they see them as different. So happy to propose.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank both of you for today from House and
I don't know how to pause it.
She hand behind the knife.